Welcome to the Our Purposeful Life Parent Connect podcast. Let's face it, parenting is hard. Culture has made it even more difficult. But thankfully, we do not have to do life alone. Come join us as we discover what God says about us and about our children. Come explore ways that we can encourage and equip our children to live out their God-given identity and purpose here on this earth. Join in on the conversation and let's live life on purpose together. Hello, I'm Nathan Hansen, and this is my wife Dana, and we're here for the Parent Connect podcast. So today we're going to talk about identity, which is one of our favorite things to talk about, but we're talking about it specifically in the context of how is a healthy identity the first step towards healthy dating, healthy sexuality. And so that's where we're going to kind of tie it in for today.
Keep it a little more narrow.
Yeah. So, what does healthy identity mean? So what that means is you know who you are, and more importantly, you know whose you are. Mm-hmm. And as followers of Christ, that should be your identity. It shouldn't be your work, it shouldn't be your relationships, it shouldn't be how good you are at X, Y, or Z. Your identity at its core needs to be rooted in Christ as your only foundation. Mm-hmm. And if you can do that, then the rest of life is pretty easy. You just kind of roll with it. Okay, not easy, but it definitely makes things easier that no matter how bad it gets, you know who you are. Mm-hmm. So how do you help your child to get there? And that's what we're talking about today. You want your child to be confident in who they are and whose they are. Mm-hmm. You want to make sure that is truth and not based on something that can shift or change over time. So bottom line is you want identity to be an ongoing conversation in your home. You want that to be something that's just kind of naturally what you talk about with your kids.
Yeah. And so one of our favorite authors for teens is Kara Powell, and she just wrote a book. Yeah, she's one of our favorites. 3 Big Questions That Change Every Teenager. And so the 3 big questions, I'll tell you, are who am I, which is focused on identity, where do I fit in, which is belonging, and what difference can I make, which is purpose. And so it's important that we help our kids answer those 3 questions. Who am I, where do I belong, and why am I here? And so if we can get our kids to answer those questions correctly, then that will equip them to make wise and godly decisions in all areas of their life. And so what is identity? Well, identity is our view of ourselves. And I think teens especially are trying to figure out who they are. I mean, I remember like practicing my handwriting and do I want to write my A's this way or this other way, and what style do I want to be and stuff. And so like on those kind of more superficial ways, kids are trying to figure out their identity, but on the inside, they're also trying to figure out who they are and kind of also like navigating what does others expect me to be and how is that going to line up with who I really am, and that with belonging, that is our connection with others. Like God created us to be in community and in relationship. And so all of us want to be with people who know us, who understand us, and who accept us. And so unfortunately, sometimes we change who we are to belong. And so we need to help our kids being confident in who they are so that they're like, no, this is who I am. And then they find people who accept them for who they are. And then purpose is what is our contribution to the world? Like, why are we here? We all internally want to make a difference. Like we want to be here for a reason and want to make a difference. And so helping our kids kind of navigate that and figuring out why they're here. And I think that our true purpose, our God-given purpose, is what's going to give us the most fulfillment. And so helping our kids navigate that is important.
Yeah, so we'll go through each one of those in a little more detail. And so we'll start with the identity and who I am. And so you just help your kid start at the very beginning. Genesis 1, Genesis 2. We were all created in the image of God, that he created us to be his likeness, his his mirror, his little representative walking around on the earth. And that's who he created us to be, which is humbling and kind of crazy and a little overwhelming if you think about it. We're his ambassadors, we're his examples, we represent him. And so, but that's really cool, really exciting. And that brings value and an inherent worth to each one of us, regardless of what we can perform and do and create. And so that's the first step, is we're in his image. And then next, again, Genesis, we learn that God made us male and female. Gender is baked into us from the very beginning, and that's how he created it, and that's how he rejoices over the fact that he's made us male and female so that we can fully reflect, more fully reflect all of his characteristics, all of what it means to be God is reflected through male and female. And then you can start with this one from the very youngest of ages, which is God doesn't make mistakes. He made you just the way he wanted you to be. And so we are fearfully and wonderfully made. We learn in Psalms. Yeah. We learn that we're his masterpiece. We learn that in the New Testament. And so each child, each one of us is just, this unique facet of who God is. And so the more that they understand that, the more that their identity will be solid.
Well, and I think it's important for our kids to understand God made them unique on purpose, and so that they don't need to be like even their brothers or their sisters, that like it's good that God's creative, and we need to be different. Like if we were all the same, one of us isn't needed and stuff. And so just celebrate the uniqueness of each child.
Yeah, absolutely. So then once you've established that kind of the big picture of humans are made in his image, male and female, and wonderfully made according to his purpose. Then the next step is then he's adopted us as sons. We are his children, which is pretty amazing. And so the prodigal son, which is really the story of a good father and a couple bratty kids, that's such a pretty picture of who our Father is and how much he loves us. And we are in his family, and he has chosen us on purpose to be his kids. And because of that, we are unconditionally loved. Again, whether you're the son who runs away in rebellion, or the son who works and tries to earn God's favor, Dad's favor, no matter what your kind of natural tendency is to sin and to stray, God's there and he's waiting for you with open arms, and he loves you. And the more that your kids can understand that, watch that in you, and you live that way, and then the more that you can teach them about it, then the more solid their foundation will be. And ultimately, they need to know, I was going to say the Bible. This isn't the Bible. Cara Powell's good, but she's not that good. So they need to know the Bible. They need to know Scripture, and they need to know that their identity is firmly rooted on those truths that are found there. So then once they've got that, the identity, then belonging is next. And so God said right off the bat, again, Genesis, it's not good for us to be alone. We're made for a relationship. And he puts us in families. He puts us in tribes. He puts us in groups. He puts us in congregations in the New Testament and in bodies of believers. It's not good for us to give up getting together and being with each other. We need each other. So I could probably go on for a while about that. But just trust me. We're made for a relationship. We need to be connected. We do belong, and they do belong. Even if they feel like they don't belong, that's a lie from the devil. They do fit. Their uniqueness is a beautiful part of the body. We're all different. We have different body parts, but we're all part.
Yep.
So we also belong to God. Again, he chose us into his family. And then you need to be creating a culture in your family of belonging where you are celebrating each individual child, whether you have one kid or whether you have a dozen or somewhere in between. Each child should feel like, I really fit in. Like, I'm part of this team. I'm part of this family. Now I'm a little bit weird, because we're all weird deep down. But my parents think my weirdness is cool, and I actually fit in and I play an important role. And so if you can build that kind of culture in your home, that's a pretty amazing foundation for your child as they go out into the world, which may not be quite so kind to them.
Right. And
so then once you've built that identity and that belonging, then purpose is the next step. And so this is something that's really exciting and awesome about young people in general. And then it's something that I think is maybe even more special about this generation right now, where there's this sense of like, I'm here for a purpose, and it isn't about me, just about me. I want to do something big. Like I want to make a difference. And that's true that the God puts that in youth. It's a beautiful thing to see that energy. And then I really think that this generation has been awakened to that fact that we're here to make a difference, and there's a lot of things that need to be done, so let's go. And so that's a cool thing, to see in young people. And so as parents, it's our job to channel that, harness that, get excited about that and encourage that in our kids and say, yeah, God has huge plans for you in his kingdom, lots of stuff to be done. Yeah. And so let's do it. Let's go.
Well, I think it's important that, like, what I love about the Bible, and when you look at it from cover to cover, like, it's one complete story, and it's all tied into this story of redemption, and we can be a part. And so, like, if you can teach your kids that, like, you're a part of God's story, and you're a part of his mission for this earth and to reach others and stuff. And so if you can tie in, like, your life matters because you're a part of God's bigger story. And so where is he having you tie into his story? I think it's a cool aspect.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And for the record, I've gone, I don't know, like 10 or so minutes without mentioning John Eldredge and Wild at Heart.
It's one of his favorites.
And Morgan Snyder. So that's a record for me, probably. But John Eldredge likes to talk about the big picture, the epic story that God is writing, and we each play an important role in that story.
Yeah.
And it's something that only I can have the voice that God gave me. Only I can play the role that God has given to me. And so that's true of your kids. No matter how young they are, they can play that important role. So that's how you can tie their innate desire for purpose to really tie that into God's purpose for their life.
Yeah.
And so I think that now our house is a little weird. Again, we're all a little weird. But this is stuff we talk about with our kids, like, just kind of as it comes up, whether it's when we're talking about our school day, or when we're talking about, they'll ask me about work, and I try to think, is there a story I can tell about my work day that weaves these things in, either things I did well or things that maybe didn't go so well. Try to be properly vulnerable with our kids about things I'm struggling with or trying to work through. So we try to have these conversations as a natural part of our day.
And I think school provides lots of opportunities for it. Like, they come home and, this kid called me this, or this kid said this about me. And then that's an opportunity for you to say, okay, well, that's what they said, but what does God say about you? And what is the truth that he says about you? And kind of helping them navigate, okay, this person said something. Does that line up with what God says about you? If it does, awesome. Like, they just confirmed who you are. But if it doesn't, then you can say, but this is something that we need to let go and say, nope, I don't accept that. This is what God says about me. And so look for those opportunities to kind of just help them navigate words spoken, especially over them.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, it's our job to create a culture or environment or whatever you want to call it. You just create a world. Your little house is your little kingdom, and you want your place to be a place where these conversations just happen, where you're talking about real stuff. Because if they're not talking about it with you, they're probably going to be talking about it with somebody or wishing that they could talk about it. So
they're processing and they're interpreting life through what they know and stuff. And so they only know what they know. And so we can help them interpret it correctly.
Yeah, interpretation's an important word, and it's important.
And so how this relates to sexuality and to healthy dating and stuff is, if our kids are solid in who they are, then somebody coming in won't sway them from that. And they'll stay on track to where God has, and they won't do things that they don't want to do because they're like, no, this is who I am, and this is the decisions that I'm going to make. And then they'll attract people who have like values and stuff, and say like, no, I'm sold out for God. I'm going to find somebody who is, and we're going to go and do his mission for our life. And so that's how that solid foundation helps them make wise choices and helps them live a holy life. And so the other aspect that we just kind of want to talk about today is learning how to navigate feelings, because when you're dating, you have all the feels. And so sometimes your brain kind of like gets messed up and feelings kind of override in that. And so we just want to spend a few minutes talking about feelings. And so the world will tell our kids, do whatever feels good, do whatever makes you happy and stuff. And so while God wants us to be happy and to have joy, we can't let our feelings dictate which way we need to go. And so we need to help our kids learn to interpret their feelings, but also how to respond to them properly.
Yeah.
And some kids might not even know what they're feeling. And so I think in childhood, maybe some adults need some help with that. Like, okay.
I have both feelings. Happiness and anger. Like, what else is there?
There are so many more emotions and stuff. And so I think helping our kids even figure out what they're feeling. And so helping them navigate, okay, I know you're sad, but let's talk a little bit more. Like, why are you sad? Mm-hmm. Or that. So each kid, some have all the feels and know exactly how they're feeling. Some don't. And so we kind of need to help them navigate that. Mm-hmm. So we need to remember that feelings are good, that God created feelings. They're good, they're needed. They're supposed to alert us to something. And so feelings are supposed to alert us something happened and we need to take action. Yeah. But once we take that action, those feelings are supposed to go. And so we need to put them in the right perspective that they're indicators and not dictators of what's going on. And so the world is, again, like trying to tell us, do whatever feels good. And so there's a couple proverbs that kind of tell us if that's a good thing or a bad thing. And so in Proverbs 28:26, it says, one who trusts in his own heart is a fool, but one who walks with the wise will flee to safety. Proverbs 14:12 says, there is a way that seems right to a person, but its end is the way of death.
Pretty clear.
Yeah, it's pretty clear. And Proverbs 3:5-6 is a famous one that we probably all know. It's trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him and he will make your paths straight. And so I think it's important to take our feelings and then really pray about them and ask the Lord, okay, what should I take from this? How should I feel? How should I respond? And so when our kids start having those feelings for the opposite gender, we need to kind of help them through that. Yeah. And so it's important not to shame them or to make fun of them, but to say, okay, let's talk about it and just ask them questions. Well, tell me more about that, or why do you think you feel that way? Or what do you like about that person? Kind of just getting them to start talking through those emotions. And then I think it's important to be like, okay, now that we have these, let's ask God, like, what are we supposed to do with those? Are we supposed to wait? Are we supposed to start pursuing that relationship? And what does that look like? Or are we supposed to, oh, those aren't good feelings. We need to kind of stop them and ask God to take those away. There's all different things. And then that's when you can start having the conversation of what are you looking for in a spouse? Like, does this person line up with your values or what you're looking for? Mm-hmm. And then you can kind of think about like, oh, you're excited about him. You want to start dating them. Are you ready to take on that responsibility of caring for somebody else's heart, for taking on their emotions and their feelings and treating them with honor and respect? But the main thing is just, okay, let's go to the Lord. Like, these feelings are good. They're telling us we need to take action. What is our first action? Our first action is taking them to the Lord.
That's good. So yeah,
Sorry,
I mean...
Could you say that again? Sorry.
That's my Apple Watch.
That's awesome.
We can say it again, sure. Take your feelings to the Lord.
Yeah, so that's good stuff. This is an important book, really a helpful book that we've enjoyed. And so it really helps to line out those three things. Knowing who you are in Christ, knowing where you belong, knowing what your purpose is. And then once you do that, it equips you, you have the maturity that you need to have so that you can handle these difficult interpersonal relationships called dating and all of the temptations and challenges that come along with that. And so that's really, we believe, is the foundation that you can build. And we'll say it as many times as we have these conversations, it's never too early to have these conversations, and it's never too late. You shouldn't be listening to this and think, I missed it, I'm too late on this. No, like today is a great day to start. Tomorrow is a great day to start. Start having those conversations and helping your children to, wherever they are on this path, to start that. You want them to know that we have been created in the image of God, that we've been created male and female for relationship. We're wonderfully made. He didn't make mistakes, and we're his masterpiece. We are in his family. We're unconditionally loved, and we have a specific purpose in his body. And so as we shepherd our kids through that, as we, we're not raising kids, we're raising adults. We're helping them to become ready for adulthood. These are the really core and foundational things that you can be building in them so that when they're starting the roller coaster ride of dating, that they'll be ready for it. So that's all we have for you today. Thanks for tuning in. We hope that you feel equipped. We hope that you feel excited. And we hope that you feel ready to have these conversations with your kids.